Almost, right? Here goes. I think this should move him from attendee to panelist. There he goes. Now he's over at panelist. Let me give that should work.
Wow, I've got more options now.
Now you've got the power in your hands.
Wow, that's kind of scary.
Pat Jones. What's up, Pat Jones? Good to see you. Good to see you working on your rewrite again. You're probably having mic problems again where you don't hear me. Yeah, give it a minute. We'll start soon. Hey, Pat Jones. Hey, Greg. How you doing? Good to see you there. Pat, Greg.
Hey Ken, how you doing?
I'm well, thanks. You?
Good.
Cool. Good.
Hey Ken, I'm good. I'm heading down south.
You're in the car, Greg?
I'm in the car, so I'm gonna go on mute probably for most
Okay.
of this.
Sounds cool.
Glad to be here.
Listen up, then. Yeah, give another minute here. I know we're going to pick up a couple of latecomers. All right. Let's go. How's everybody doing?
Good, Ken. How you doing?
Good, Ralph. How about you?
I just got down the shore. I'm in my chill mode, so I'm ready to listen.
Good. Nice. Welcome. Welcome you. Welcome everybody. For those that haven't figured it out yet or explored it yet, we've got a Slack channel. You might not even know what that is because I didn't before I discovered the app. It's like a conversation platform. And we've set one up for discussions of this Office of Shaman Summit. I see some people have gotten on some questions, or some people have been on it already. So check it out. Good place to ask questions. And speaking of asking questions, ask them here. You know, raise your hand, put them on chat, and let me know if you got anything to say. You won't know if you understand it until you trot it out and test your knowledge. Take my experience on that one, man. I've been caught off guard on that. A quick story on that one. We're talking about programming. The first tool, we could say the first tool, someone who, for the Office of Shaman. I like to think of this as the first tool you use if you want to get along better, if you want to deal with people better. Makes sense. You think about it. If you got to deal with your own thoughts. You got to deal with the way you see the world. You got to deal with the places where you might be missing what other people are saying. You might be not. You probably got. I'm sure about it. You got some things about yourself that you haven't explored. That has certainly been true for me. We being float centers, offer these workshops to our float clients. We do something called Introduction to the Art of Rewriting, which is call it like a level 1 introduction to the tool of programming. And we'll talk some more about that. And I took that about 10 years ago, not long after I found this book. And then from there, I did a deeper dive, which we call the rewrite. I say deeper, and the first one's, you learn a little bit, you put a marker in about what this thing about programming is. You learn the tool of programming, and I'll get into that, or we'll get into that a little bit more later. And that takes place generally over a couple days or a few days. But the rewrite, and maybe we'll talk about that today too, is a deeper dive into it. We heard from Patrick Jones last night, who's in the midst of doing a rewrite. That's the intro class is done live. We have it sometimes in Jersey. We're offering it in beautiful Puerto Vallarta. I'm taking groups down there, so hopefully some of you might want to join me. And the rewrite, though, is generally done through Slack, through kind of like an email back and forth. And it takes a deeper dive because you get into those things that John were talking about last night, about those early childhood beliefs, the things you decided when you're young. And so like my experience was, it's like, I got this, you know, I'm a lawyer. It's got to be easy for me. I had heard about programming, and there's lots of different programming things out there. I had already been a meditator. I had these, they're even behind me here on this bookshelf. I have these tapes on meditation. I have some tapes on programming. So, you know, I've experimented with this thing called programming. And a lot of it was good. You know, I mean, a lot of it is, you know, for dealing with habits and things like, you know, if you want to wake up earlier, or if you want to eat better, you might, you know, tell yourself over and over again, eat better, eat more healthy, or stay calm, relax, take a breath, which is kind of more like a mantra. We're going to introduce you to a tool or a programming method called the Goals Means program, which was developed by a neuroscientist by the name of John Lilly. And as I said before, I came in contact with this shortly after I found John's book. And I went all the way down to Brooklyn and spent 2 days doing that first level, that intro class. You know, I strolled in there all, you know, I got this, you know, I'm a lawyer, you can't teach me anything. Well, I found out some stuff that was mostly in the nature of what I didn't know. The Goals Means program is broken down into steps, into facets, because your programs have facets. And it's a pretty handy programming tool to deal with goals, things that you want to accomplish, and also to deal with things that are already floating around in your thinking that you want to, let's just say, straighten up, make so they work better for you. I think another way to say that is you can ditch or get rid of the fantasies that you put in place when you were young. Okay. So for me, I trucked all the way down to Brooklyn, where I met Elise, who's probably on tonight, and I met another guy named David. It was his apartment. And I did the class with about 6 other people. And the first thing they asked me, they kind of, if you can see the screen here, they showed me that this Goal Means program has 11 steps. You can see them here. Goal, first one. Means, second one. Charisma, third one. Orientation, elimination, assimilation, impulse, needs, possibilities, form, and substance. And each one of these is, we associate with a different body part. I mean, it makes it easy to remember, but also, interestingly, the aspect of each of these aspects actually relates to that body part, at least I'd say in some respect. I'll ask John in a bit whether that's actually the case. But, you know, how I understand it is that, goals relate to your hands. And so I'm at this class, and the facilitator says, all right, everybody here, pick a goal. It's got to be, just something measurable. So this is the intro class. Now, in the intro class, all we want you to do is to pick a goal, just a simple statement, affirmative statement of something that you want to do. So for me, I think I picked a goal of, I want to have a software app where I can remember people's names. Okay, it's because I knew that I was having issues remembering people's names. You calling John's Joes and Sally's Sarahs, and for my whole life. But as I worked through these steps, I started to see that even that simple goal that I set had facets that it revealed about how I thought about stuff way deeper than just that goal might indicate. So what happens is when you write a goals means program, you start with a goal, pick a goal. And the goal is something that you want to accomplish. And then from there, and the goals are associated with the hands. From there, the next statement is the means. The means is like how you get there. That's associated with the wrists and the ankles. Then you got to have, then you got to talk about charisma. Think about it this way. You've got charisma. Everything you do has charisma associated with it. In other words, charisma is part of how you go about doing things. You already bring a charisma to everything. So what I'm hopefully getting you to see here is that this is a pretty potent tool because you're dealing with aspects of your programming, at least for me, that I never dealt with when I was just telling myself, eat healthy, or, relax. I had to actually deal with my charisma. And from there, we do orientation. Orientation has to do with the elbows and the knees. No, rather orientation has to do with the genital area. How are you oriented towards your goal? If your orientation is to hide under the carpet and never go out, you're probably not going to get to your goal. So it's pretty handy because in the course of writing the goal, you got to consider things about your programming that you might not have considered. And then there's elimination. What do you got to get rid of? Well, for me, I threw a heap of blame on everybody. That heap of blame stood in the way of ever getting anything done. Then from elimination, which is associated with lower abdomen, you do assimilation. What do you got to take in? What do you need? Could be something like, for me, it was like humility or, dealing with people as people. That's part, these are all parts of every program. From the assimilation, you have impulse, which is like the chest area. You can see from this chart here. And just like all the steps before it, we got impulses. Some of them are good, or some of them are bad. My impulse, which I came to see, was something like shoot up the room and ask questions later. And the way that played out for me a lot was that I would find arguments where there were no arguments. If someone would say something and immediately I'd be like, you want to fight? And, I'd go to, go to my holster and, and pull out the proverbial gun, which was more like, anger. And I was off to the races. The next step in the Goal Means program is needs. And needs are associated with mouth. And it really is, what do you need? What do you really need? It's not as simple as you might think it is. You really have to think about it. Even for me, the program of remembering people's names, when I got to the needs, had really nothing to do with needing an app to remember people's names. Really had more to do with like something like, well, I need to, respect people, something like that. And then there's possibilities, which are associated with the eyes. What's possible? What is the thing that's possible because of your rewritten program? And then, go ahead, John.
Why does that line point to the nose then?
Oh yeah, possibilities is nose. Needs is mouth. Thank you. Needs is mouth, possibilities is nose. Hey, John, why is possibilities nose? I mean, is it? Is there any rhyme or reason to that, or is it just a handy way to?
If you're thinking about something, you're thinking about the possibilities of something. If you're doing your best Sherlock Holmes pose, you'll stand with your thumb and forefinger and middle finger under your chin, and your finger beside of your nose.
Yep.
Just like that.
Just
because
like
you're smelling for the possibilities of what that thing is.
okay.
When you smell the aroma of food, you say, "Oh, what are the that smells good." What do you mean it smells good? It smells like there's a good possibility I'm going to get something to eat that I really want to eat. I'm going to have fun eating this. there's possibilities of enjoyment in that. That smells good. That's what we always do with smelling. We always smell the possibilities. That includes, well, I guess that includes sex, they say. Although you can't, you know, hey, that's only true. That's only true if you go visit cannibals in prison.
Say what?
Well, on Silence of the Lamb, he could
Ah.
smell.
Yeah, I now I know.
You're just
Correct.
you don't. You need to get out more, Ken. You know, you're too much time in the courtroom apparently.
Fava beans and Chianti from Silent Lambs.
You would remember the important things, of course. Yeah.
I do. So then there's form, the 10th of 11 steps, and forms associated with eyes. How come, John?
Well, I don't know. If you're going to see something, you're going to look at the form of it, aren't you?
That makes sense.
I thought it did. I mean, I didn't make this shit up. You know, I mean, it's just makes sense to me, though. And substances, when you're listening to something, what do you say? Listen to me. Why? Because you want them to hear the substance of what you're saying.
Yeah. Where did you find this? Is this out of John Lilly?
Yeah, this is Lilly. This came out of Lilly's book, but I don't think that he made this up. I can't remember who made it up. This was all a conglomeration of thoughts coming out of Epsilon at the time, I think. So I'm not really sure who it was that came up with it.
I haven't encountered a more detailed or maybe encompassing or one with facets programming methodology.
Actually, Drucker's MBO is actually a form that's a lot more complicated than this is. This form is super for personal things, for something you want for yourself. But Drucker's construct is, well, it's more multi-layered, and it works much better for businesses or for any social endeavor.
Yeah. Drucker, as in Peter Drucker, who wrote lots of books, including one called, I think, The Practice of Management. I think he's credited with being like the father of modern management.
Well, he's also the father of the Japanese economy. MacArthur appointed him to be the Japanese economic advisor after World War II, and he took the job seriously. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead.
I go take bread out of the oven, apparently.
Okay, do your bread. Drucker didn't speak. He never used the term programming. If you read what Drucker wrote, but that dude was very adept at organizational programming. Here's the thing, I mean, this is something that didn't occur to me until I read Drucker and thought about it. We got programming, you guys know that, that's how you see the world. You navigate with your programming. That one I think is more intuitive and easier to see. But your business has programming too, even if you aren't aware of it. Businesses operate with people, and those people come together and make all sorts of agreements about how they're going to do things. Some of them work well, and some of them work not so well. I think what Drucker was doing here was the same thing that Lilly did, that John Worthington put in his book, was take something that's already a feature of either who we are as people, that's the goal mean statement, or how we do business in Drucker's case, and break it down into a way that you can see it. Why do you want to break it down that way? Why did I? Because I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't think really anybody does until you examine your programs. And my experience in business is the same. Businesses generally don't know what they're doing. They don't take the time to
The reason is because we don't break down the thoughts actually as to what they actually are. In other words, a business is a huge computer. Well, it's not necessarily a huge computer, but it's a computer. It has a life of its own. It has an interface. It interfaces with the public, and if you think about it as a computer rather than as a business, boy, it just solves an awful lot of management and decisional problems. Simply because you're thinking about it in a way that allows you to see it for what it is. And so you can see ideas like a mission. Well, what is a mission? Well, a mission is the statement of what we believe is real, what we're doing actually, how we interface with the world. What's an objective then? An objective is the thing we're doing this year or over the next couple of years, over the next 5 years. We're all trying to get this thing here done so that if we get this done, then there's opening for other things beyond that. But this is what we're trying to do right now. That's a self-meta program. In other words, in a computer, we could call that an operating system. What we're going to use as the basis for writing this. Is this an IBM or is this an Apple computer? What? Then that's what the operating system is going to have to reflect. It's going to have to reflect that we're an Apple computer, we're an IBM computer, we're whatever. Then what's the next thing in that? A strategy. The goals. The goals are like meta programs. Like, if you think about them like spreadsheets and data process, data processing and art programs and telephone or voice over internet protocols or something of those levels and natures, then you can see them as meta programs. Then you say the strategy. What is that? Well, the strategy is how we do the thing. It's the feeling that we paint it all with, dudes.
It's the feeling we paint it with.
When you get an Apple product, there are certain things that are recognizable as an Apple product. If you get an LG product, there are certain things that are recognizable as LG stuff that you're going to get. If you get a Chevy product, you're going to say, "Oh shit, I should have gone with a Buick." If you get a Mercedes product, there are certain things and certain levels of quality that's going to be there, and you expect it to be there. And if it's not there, you're going to take that damn car back to the dealership and say, "The hell is this?" That's the strategy or the feeling that the company paints over the thing. Yeah. Recurring events is what the company does every frickin' day, month, every frickin' 3 days, every frickin' 7 days, every frickin' year, every frickin' 6 months, every frickin' quarter, whatever that breakup is of the event. They do it over and over and over. It's like you what do? You can dictate a contract. How many times have you done that? It's a recurring event. It's the same event. It happens over and over. It's a different event every time. It's not a reoccurring event. It's always a different one. You got different names and different dates and different amounts and so forth, but it's still the same thing. That's how you apply programming to a business. When you apply programming to yourself, it's really easy to break it down to look at what do my hands really have to do here? What do my wrists really do in terms of getting my hands to where it needs to go? What is my charisma? What attitude of approach do I have to have with my knees and my hands to pick this thing up? Where do I want to have my butt or so that I can lift the damn thing up without tearing my back up, or so I can sit down properly?
What do I got to eliminate so I can get this done?
There you go. What do I have to simulate so I feel like doing it?
What do I got right?
Or even understand how to do it.
Yep. That's a simulation.
What's my impulses? Do I really want to do this? When I get up in the morning, what do I do? Think about saying, "Oh, let me put this off until next Thursday," or I think about, "Get on my way." I'm thinking I got to get this thing done here. Which one is it? Be honest with you about it. I don't care what it is. Neither should you. It is what it is. Okay, and so you go on. What do I need to get it done? What's the possibility? If I get this all done, what will I have? What's the possibilities if I get this done? What are the possibilities if I don't get it done? What are the possibilities here? What's the form of this thing? What, what's it? What, what's the function of it? So there, I mean, if I know what the function of it is, what's it going to look like when it goes into the world? And then, what kind of substance is this damn thing going to have? Is it something people are going to pay for? Does it have any quality, or is it just tinfoil? I mean, who doesn't want to ask themselves that question for anything, any job, anything that they're doing, any relationship they're in, etc. And so since we're talking about things here that apply to relationships, if I look at these things in me and I look at these things in somebody else, then I'm going to know a whole lot about how to communicate with that other person, whether they know about this stuff or not.
Yeah, I have come to see that I would like to know what I'm aiming at when I'm going about things, because I've come to see too that often I was not paying attention to that in any one of these 11 aspects that you set out.
Right.
In other words, the wagon wheels may have fallen off in charisma, or in orientation, or in.
I've seen people who had everything in place except they had this stupid impulse to fight with everybody.
Yep.
Or that they run around saying, "I need mommy to love me, and if mommy doesn't love me, then I can't do anything." Or everything I touch turns to shit. That's the only possibility I ever have. I can't throw that away. I've been doing that. That's who I am. That's my identity. Eliminate it already. I don't know if I'm big enough to grow up and actually say, give me more money for what I do. I don't know if I really am worth. Assimilate your value, please. My favorite one is, what's the means? What's the means of getting this thing done? Oh, I got to go over to Robin Hood's barn, and I got to go around that 14 times. And then I got to go down to, let's say I got to go down to Park Avenue and throw a pair of old tennis shoes over a power line, if it's right there on the corner, and then I got to come back home and get a blessing from the church, and maybe I can pick up some holy water and sprinkle it around the four corners of my house so I'm protected from evil spirits. That's not the means to do anything except to drive yourself fucking nuts.
Yeah, that's true.
If the goal is to go to the shore, the means is to get your ass into the truck and drive down to the shore.
It's a lot of people don't see that initially until you point it out. The goal is sure. Well, I got to gas up. I got to put my clothes on.
Again, there's a lot of people who don't see it, even after I pointed out 57 different times, and in different packages. They call me the Heinz guy.
I have heard it said that a feature of neural programming is you can't see what you're looking with. In other words, since you're looking through the programming at the world, you can't see the programming.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I can't prove to myself that I have eyes.
Okay, that's true. Or that you have hands.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that see, the thing is, if I break it down to these various parts, then I can say, well, maybe I can't see my eyes necessarily, but I can see what my hand's grabbing hold of right there, and it's a cool thing. It is.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. My experience fits that maybe I couldn't see the programming, but the evidence of the programming was all over the place. I just needed to look.
See, that's the thing, right? You can't ignore the evidence, because there's a lot of stuff that you can't really see with your own eyes, like a program working in a computer.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
You can't really see what it's doing in the computer itself. It's in a hurry. It happens before I can look at it. The only thing I can see is the results. But you know what? The results are proof that the thing works and how it works and everything else. It might be the same thing for us. You don't know. It could be.
Yeah. Who was Was Lily or anybody using this Goal Means program as far as you know, or did it kind of tucked away in a book and you pulled it out and dusted it off and
Well, Lilly actually wrote it out. I mean, he wrote out several different versions of a program. You know, and it's easy stuff to do. I mean, once you understand the concept of what he's doing, I mean, or what the program does, we all think that way. We really do. I mean, think about this. If you go to McDonald's, you're going to use every single damn part of this program set.
my goal is to go to McDonald's. My means is I'm going to
No, it isn't. My goal isn't go to McDonald's. My goal is a Big Mac.
Okay. The means is to go buy the Big Mac.
Yep. The means is to go to the place where the Big Macs are and get one and put it in my hand. Okay. Have it right here. That way I have it in my hands. That's the means, right? Take my wrist and squeeze my hands around that Big Mac and pick it up and bring it up over here to my mouth. Mm-hmm.
And how does charisma fit in?
Well, it depends how I hold that Big Mac, doesn't it? Do I hold it like with a one hand devil may care attitude? Or do I hold it with two hands saying, don't you dare to even think about getting away from me, motherfucker. I'm going to eat your ass all the way through. Go have me some of you. Yeah. Meaty. That's what I'm looking for. And then if you can't figure out the elimination, you haven't been to McDonald's.
Oh, we skipped orientation, but I think I got to be oriented to put it to actually eat it.
First of all, you got to stand up there to the counter. You got to get in line and keep facing around till you get right in front of the person, and then you got to stare up at the menu because you haven't seen it up to then to tell them what it is that you want. But you got to look at it 4 or 5 times. Say it's how much is that over there? Is it like it says? And then you got to say, okay, this is what I want, because you got to move your fanny around so that you're facing the direction you want to have that thing. And then you got to go stand in another line so you can face again to go pick up your tray and take it back and set your down on or orient yourself at the table.
Yeah.
And then you begin the elimination and simulation kind of thing. And the impulse would be to chew it all up and to swallow it and so forth. You'd be there because you needed to be there. And the possibilities would be that you could get something to eat right there. The form would be ugly, but the substance would be long lasting, even if it isn't all that damn tasty. I mean, grease lasts a long time in the system. And it's filling.
Yeah. Now, any one of these steps could interfere with you achieving that goal.
Well, if your impulse was that I just can't look at meat, you know, you're not going to have a Big Mac. You know, you can order it and everything, and do everything except eat it, because you can't face eating animals. That's awful. Or if your orientation was toward, you know, you couldn't actually stand there at the Big Mac counter. You'd have to stand at a Whopper counter, for instance.
Okay.
If your elbow doesn't bend, what are you going to do? You're going to graze that hamburger. Then you're going to bend over and
didn't match my face.
from the table. You know, see, the charisma has to be in place. They don't have to be in order, dude. They're all there though, in everything we do.
Yeah, all of these are facets of how we write things.
When we write it like it's in order. It isn't really though. I mean, it's just wherever it is. But
well, I know, just a footnote that we gave a preview of something we're building up to at the end of this series of what we call the playing field, which we will cover in order, but as Paul Grenshi showed us last night, it's very much like a geography instead of an order.
Yeah.
I had said earlier that I had made a distinction between, well, this is how I learned it. I assume you can learn this in various different ways, but I trucked my ass down to Brooklyn. I didn't know who the hell you were other than that your name was on the book. I certainly didn't meet you at that time, but I met some people who showed this to me over the course of 2 days. And I needed those 2 days. Those were 2 full days, as might just seem 11 steps. You can go through this in 11 minutes, but it took me 2 days to do it. And even in those 2 days, it wasn't nearly as deep a dive as I did the second go around, because the second go around, I did it with you. You probably remember. And it was different because
Probably do. It's like a lot of memories of that nature. I blocked them out. So
yeah, well, thanks. I don't care.
it was just too painful for you.
Yeah. What can I say, or does it even worth being said that you could, that we do it kind of an intro way where we'll ask for a goal, just pick a goal you want to accomplish and get it done in a day or two. Well, more like 2 days. And then when you get around to doing what, say, Patrick Jones is doing now, you go down and you actually hunt for one of those operating system things that you had referenced, what John Lilly called a self-meta program, which you can call an early childhood belief. And then you start with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that same 11 steps, but I did notice that for me, it was a substantially longer period of time.
Well, it's more work really, because by that point, you're understanding that what you're doing is you're rewriting something that's affecting your life. I mean, at this point, I can tell that to somebody, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean. It's yeah, I can see that probably be true. Yeah, huh? That thing I have at my mind. Yeah, all right. Hey, sit your little butt down here and rewrite this. Show me how damn macho you actually are. Come on. Show me."
Yeah, check. I strolled in exactly with that attitude, or something very similar to that.
That's actually that's that's about the only thing I remember of your rewrite. Is how you walked in there.
I've come to see that there's a recitation of information, and then there's knowledge. And the knowledge part, well, it's like being a lawyer or running a restaurant or being an architect or working for a telecom company. There's a whole lot of experience that needs to back that up before you put it in the category of knowledge. And so that probably says a lot about why it takes some time and could be somewhat challenging to work through this seemingly simple 11-step protocol.
Well, I mean, not really.
Go ahead.
How many programs are infected by one of those things that mistake you made as a kid?
All right, hold that. Take a look at this chart that's up there. I don't know if you can see. You can see it, right? Okay, this is an upside down pyramid. And this upside down pyramid makes reference to what I think you're pointing at. Because you're saying you write this code, or you've got something in your operating system, early childhood program, and then you ask, how many other things are tied to that? Where does its tentacles go in terms of your thinking machinery? What else does it touch, right? That's the question.
Yeah. What else? What else has incorporated it into it?
Well, let's look at this upside down pyramid. Can we do that?
Yeah. Okay, we can do that. Sure.
Okay, let's do that. Let's I don't know. Let's see this one.
Here.
We've got colors, and we've got this reddish color, which is labeled error in self-meta program. Error. Oh, okay.
Okay. I've got one for you then. All right.
Go ahead. Let's do it.
This is a Kaplan family self-meta program. You learn it early on in life, apparently. And what it looks like, more or less, is that, look, we're nice people. We get along in the neighborhood. We don't really cause any hassles. We vote Democratic or we vote Republican or whatever we vote. We go to church. We don't go to church. We go to synagogue. We don't go to synagogue. We mow the lawn on Sundays. We mow the lawn on Saturdays. We don't mow the lawn and get somebody to come in and mow it. There's a whole series of things. We eat this kind of food. We don't eat that kind of food. That kind of food is for those kind of people, etc. All of those things are part and parcel of the deal. Now, within all of that, there's one little stinky thing that goes into it, and that is that whatever we do, we never tell the truth about a damn thing, not as regards to our personal thoughts, because those are private to us.
Okay. Yeah, that will not, that has never happened. I think I may be the first Kaplan to have explored that.
That's
And
right.
also was probably the first Kaplan to be roundly criticized for having broke out of that
Well,
mold.
you're obviously going to hell, right? But I don't think it's
Yeah,
could be, but it might not. Maybe for something else.
yeah. Well, because they're nice people.
Yeah, well, that's true. But here's the thing: is that part of that program is painted onto every single thing you've ever done. Everything, everything, everywhere, for any reason.
Yeah, that thing is painted onto was painted onto the way I go and order a cup of coffee.
Yes.
Yeah, just everything. Just as a, it's the way I talk to my partners. It's the way I, paint it onto, how I go about the law practice, how I deal with clients, on and on.
So even when you're talking to a client, what can I do? What does the client, what are you going to do for the client? Well, you can't really tell the client because that's something that's private to you.
So the program played out.
Yes. And so
Yeah, I declared it private to me.
there you go. And
Yeah.
it's fine. Okay. Now that affects your business life. It affects your, it affects how you frickin' drive the car. It affects the food you eat and how you digest it. It affects everything and everything there is about you. Now then, you come along and you write a program and you say, okay, I'm going to remember people's names even.
Yeah.
How in the hell are you going to do that? You don't think people are real. It's them. They don't have names.
Yeah. That's the truth, man. That is, yeah.
Okay.
That's how it affects everything. It's like, they're not even,
Look at it another way. Who are you going to do business with? What about that black guy that's over there? Well, yeah, maybe, but you can't trust them because they're, I don't know whether I can, they're not Jewish.
Hmm.
They're not from New Jersey.
Hmm.
Who knows who they're from, where they're from? Who knows what they're about?
Mm-hmm.
They're not from here. They're them.
Yeah.
Those are errors that we paint on everything.
Yep. That's
Now,
true. Yep.
here's the thing. Is it wrong? No, there's nothing wrong with it. Christ, it worked. Damn, it works. It's how you do business. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing. Do you like it or not? If you do, then do something about it. If you don't, then don't. Leave it alone. It's fine. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Sing some Jerry Reed. It's good for you.
Yeah. I think really what you're pointing out is this, I don't know, can I use the term agnostic? And who the hell am I? I don't care. I mean, I don't know, maybe I can say that. But if you don't care enough about your programming to change it, I mean, what the hell can I do anyway? Because when you get right down to it, you're either going to change the color of these cubes so that things start lining up the way that you like to, or you're not.
And here's the thing. As long as you're happy with it, I'm happy with it too. If you're bitching about it, then I'm going to tell you how to change it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it and you keep on bitching about it, I'm just going to say, hey, look, I don't want to talk to you. You're
Yeah.
Get out of here. Yeah, I'm trying to give you a hand. You're arguing with me about it. I don't care. Go away.
Yeah, it didn't take me too long, although there was a bit of time when before I found out that people don't particularly care for me telling them anything about what they should or shouldn't do with their programming. Nobody, yeah, that's just arrogance.
Well, not only that.
Hey, okay, guys, wait a minute. Let me catch up here. Let me just catch up.
Vanessa, hello.
Hello. So when somebody doesn't want to acknowledge their programming, what is that like? Like, how do you know that they don't want to acknowledge their programming if they're saying that they do, though?
Well, Vanessa, here's the thing. How do you know that when somebody goes to court and they say, Your Honor, the officer was just wrong. I wasn't really speeding for the 47th time on my record. Really and truly, it must have been them tires I just put on. They swell up and I go faster. I was going right exactly according to it was precisely where it wasn't 37 miles over the speed limit. Your Honor. How many times can you go and tell Your Honor that before Your Honor says, you're a lying piece of shit. Take your boy's license away. Don't let him drive no more. I mean, it's fairly easy to see what people do as opposed to what they say. I mean, how hard can that be?
Yeah.
I guess you're just one of those practical country boys.
Well, I don't know how about the practical part. The country boy part, I can tell you for sure. But the practical thing, that may be something that only exists in my mind. But in my mind, it looked practical.
Mm-hmm. You're saying that some people can recognize that they're doing what they're doing, per se.
I think we all do. We put a lot of effort and energy into it, don't you know?
To say that we're not.
And to say that, and to keep on doing it, yeah, we do.
Wait, I got to take a bit of issue with this here, but maybe it's not really taking an issue. Let's see. I think for me, and I'd just go so far as to say this is a pretty handy tool, that when I first started to think about this, I was instantly or impulsively dismissive of things, almost like maybe I could say, "Nah, I don't want to look in that place." Like, if someone said, "Looks like it hurt," and I'd be like, "The fuck you talking about? Where's the hurt?" But it's not the only way to look at things. What I'm getting at is that there are certain ways you can loosen up your stranglehold on looking at yourself by maybe instead of just dismissing something, you could treat it as if it may be true. If you can't even go that far, for me, maybe I'll just hold it in this space in my mind called maybe it's not false. That's about as least committal I can, even though it's the least committal I can get, it's been way more productive than just impulsively dismissing things.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's nothing worse than the dichotometric. Oh, I don't believe that shit.
Well,
Good for you. That's great. You don't believe that shit. What is it you believe?
That-
not.
That's one of the points that I wanted to touch, is that like, we all know what we're doing and we decide how to react to those things. And so that programming, that impulse that we react to is what.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second here.
Okay. Thank you.
Once upon a time, I had a puppy dog.
Okay.
And this puppy dog had a really bad habit with floors and puddles. And this puppy dog, no matter where the puppy dog was, puddles appeared. And me and the puppy dog had several conversations about that, the coincidence. And the puppy dog didn't think that he wanted to actually talk about it. He wanted to move on. And so it was necessary for me to take the puppy dog by the scruff of the neck and rub his nose in the puddle and say, "Puppy dog, would you look at this, please?" I asked you several times just to look at it, but you're not doing it. But this is what I'm talking about. You got to, and even then, the puppy dog wouldn't look at what was there. However, that doesn't mean that the puppy dog didn't understand what I was saying. I just had to explain to the puppy dog in a way that the puppy dog could understand it.
Yeah.
I've met lots of puppy dogs.
I've been one of those puppy dogs, I think.
Yeah, you didn't look at things well.
No.
Yeah. That's a fair statement.
No, but that's a good way to like look at it, because I've encountered people in my journeys that say, "Oh no, but I don't do that."
I mean, you don't have to grab them by the scruff of the neck necessarily. I mean, there are times where, I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it and decided to, scruff the neck, what just isn't enough. It requires a deliberate act that's notable. Usually, though, for most people, you say, you're really doing that thing. Most people are smart enough to say, yeah, I am. I mean, most people do that. I mean, I know a few people who don't, but most people will. But we all know we have programs. They know that.
Yeah.
Some of them work, some of them don't. Some of them we're going to change, and some of them we ain't even going to think about changing them because they work just fine as far as we're concerned.
What are we looking at here? This graphic flowchart makes this point. At the left side, a belief. Believed threat at the level of belief, and then that generates because belief, our perceptions come out of beliefs. So because of that belief, we perceive with the emphasis on perceive, that there's a threat. That's at that metaprogram box. And because we perceive there's a threat.
Okay, that's really, this is really a thing that if we believe that there's a threat, if we believe that if we tell the truth, for instance, that we're going to get in trouble, and God knows that there are lots of children who believe that.
Yeah.
And it's actually real and really true, and actually true for them. Okay. And so they grow up and they become adults, and then they can't figure out why it is that every time if somebody asks them something, they'll tell a lie about it rather than tell the truth. They'll say, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to tell them something that they might not like, for instance. I'm afraid that if they don't like it, then they're not going to like me, and I won't be a good person, and then they're going to, they'll fire me, or something terrible will happen. They'll cut up my credit cards, or they'll tell my ex about where I am, and whatever. Who knows what they'll see as a threat, right? And so the meta program is how they perceive that threat, and what they do to react to that threat. Whether they're gonna move away, they're gonna be still, they're gonna fight with, they're gonna attack it, whatever. And so the programs are actually those programs are a fight thing, a flight thing, or a freeze thing. And so how do those things work out? Do they defend? Do they argue? Do they avoid? Do they change cities? Do they write their congressman? What do they do exactly? Do they go out and march in the streets?
Yeah.
I think that it's true, for instance, that as a nation, we had damn well better perceive the threat that race is not freedom, and we're lying to ourselves. We're a nation of frauds if we say that we are going to treat everybody equal, and then we don't. We're frauds.
Yeah.
And that's true. Now, there's no reason for that to be threatening, but I'll guarantee you that it is.
I guarantee that too.
But what for? There's nothing threatening about that. If that's the truth, then it's the truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
What?
If that's the truth, that's a problem. What do we do about it now? Pretend it's not there, or to say, okay, yeah, that's who they are. We can't be a fraudulent nation. We can't be frauds. We are somebody. We're something. Well, okay, then let's do that. Then let's be something. I don't see that as a hard question to deal with. Do you?
I don't either. I think that's where we're pointing this series, because I think if I'm not aware of how I look at things, then as you aptly pointed out, then how can I even have a conversation with somebody? I mean, I'm not even aware of how I'm looking at it.
Okay. Here, let's put it this way. You never realized that being a nice guy was a systemic family program.
I thought it was, no, I didn't realize that. I thought it was like my greatest quality. I pretty much went and got a sign made nice guy. I used to have a voicemail that says, leave a nice message. Yeah, all of it. I didn't see that.
Okay. So here's my point. We suffer from a program called systemic racism. And the only thing it means is that we haven't ever pulled out our racist kinds of ideas and looked at what we think about people that look different than us.
Yep.
I mean, that's all it is.
Yep. That's, yep. Yep, that's true. We haven't pulled out those thoughts and looked at them.
Right.
No more than I pulled out the Kaplan family Be Nice program until I pulled it out and sort of what it's worth.
Here's the thing, Ken. There's nothing wrong with that program. It works.
Yeah.
There's nothing right about it. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just a
No.
program. It fills in a space. But maybe you can find other programs that also fill in the space that do all those same things and more, for instance, that are more appropriate for let's say an attorney, or for a law partner, or for a husband, or for a business owner, or even for a frickin' rabbi, huh?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I've been running my mouth here for more than an hour.
Well, let me
do your business.
wrap it up with when I left you guys last night. I went upstairs, and my wife and I have a steady diet of cooking shows, and Gordon Ramsay's got a new show. I think it's called like 24 Hours from Hell to Success or something like that. I think it was like episode 1 last night. Gordon Ramsay's got a lot of shows. This one, it was really cool. I mean, it takes the format of a lot of his other shows. He walks into a restaurant. This time he walks in disguised. He takes the food, and you guys know where I'm going. It's crappy food because he always goes into a restaurant and the food's really crappy. But the foods was crappy, not because they didn't know how to cook. It really wasn't about that. Because it's never about that if you watch these Gordon Ramsay shows. It's about programming. And so the first thing he does is he pulls the two owners together, two brothers, and he sees right from the start that these brothers are not getting along. They're not talking about anything. Every conversation they have erupts in finger pointing and an argument. He also sees that one brother is willing to kind of put that shit down and actually do what's better for the restaurant. But the other brother, not so much. This program he was pointing at ran through and through to their family. And you saw that because he eventually brought the mom in, if you watch the episode, and you could see how it's a family dynamic, just like the Kaplan family dynamic of Being Nice. But you see, the thing is, like, as I was watching this, Gordon Ramsay really pulled that out. He especially with the brother who didn't want to hear it. He so much as kicked his ass out of the restaurant. When he did that, finally, I don't know how long it actually took because it's TV, but the brother came back in and really thanked him and said, wow, I had never had anyone talk to me like that, nor had I really considered the destructiveness of how I go about this business. And I mean, that's what we're talking about here. That's what the point that John made. For him, he came to the conclusion that that family program he was running with his brother, which was through and through his restaurant and everything he did, all the way up to the crappy food and crappy service and crappy decor, it affected everywhere. But he, the brother, both brothers came to the determination, we're done. And only when that happened did Ramsay bring in his crew and help them fix it up, but not before that. That part needed to be done. That's why programming is the first step here. We're going to go on tomorrow to, I guess, what we can call changing points of view. We also call it, which when you read the chapter, moving the assemblage point, which is a more in-depth way to describe what we're pointing at. And what we're moving toward here is how to freaking get along with people, relationships, because we just took 2 days stopping off at programming, and now we're going to bring in another person and talk about that dynamic and the things that go into being able to actually hear what someone else is actually saying. So read the book, listen to SoundCloud. Any other questions? If not, we'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Going once,
Good night.
going twice. Later. See you, Pam. And all. And, yep. Thanks too for everybody for listening in.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.